Oh hey all, and welcome back. Another package has made its way to me across the ocean from the Show store and GunDamit. And today this is from Sheik Mainland, the 3-minute project. Now, it is a FENRIR-R9 standard type. This is a subline of their 3-minute project. I've done a review of them before, you can check the link out in the description. But the last one was a pretty neat little kit that had a lot more packed in it than I expected. Now before we jump into it, let's go ahead and talk about the packaging. We have a nice photo or 3D model on the front of the figure, some nice type. The A, I assume it's for the variation of it. And then on the side, we have the logo and stuff again. And then on the back, the contents. Now it says we have 2 models, and this is probably true because with the last kit I got of theirs, it came with 3. Have a stand, some weapons, and it does a lot of poses. Now I'm looking forward to seeing what all this has to offer. So let's go ahead and get out of the packaging and see if it's worthy of our collection. And as promised, it looks like we have 2 of each runner. They look like they have a fair amount of detail, but there's not that many pieces, so this might be a pretty quick build. Since they're both identical, I'm going to only focus on building one so we can check out the overall design for this review. Some of the accessories include a whole slew of hands, we have 2 of each, and an assortment of assault weapons. It also includes a stand with a few points of articulation, and underneath the base you can store the hands. And here we have them fully assembled. The build itself was not terrible. There were a few undergated pieces which seemed a little bit unnecessary, and each of the shafts has a little bit of a divot on it, so you have to give it an extra push to get it fully seated. But other than that, this is a quick build and it was fairly simple and fun. Now aesthetically, I really love this. I think this has some great hard edges on it, some nice joint designs, exposed areas that show some of the inner workings. The peg holes are not overly intrusive. I think this is a great design. Now, one note, you would have to paint the visor. You only get 2 colors here, but it still is a good looking desk toy. With the variety of hands and all the other stuff, I think it has a lot to offer, especially for the price point and the fact that you get 2 of them. So let's go ahead and go over articulation. We've got a ankle joint here, rotates, pivots, and then we have a bend. So we can go like so. The knee goes back so far that the foot almost is a collision point. Then we have a fairly complicated hip joint. So we have the full rotation here. Then we have the pivot at this joint, and then another joint inside that gives us a thigh swivel. Over here at the hands, we have full rotations on a ball joint, and then we have a recessed area that allows it to go all the way down. We have an elbow bend like so. And then we have a fairly complicated shoulder. As you can see, we have a few inner joints that allows us to get some pretty dynamic bends. This thing, as far as posability goes, is really nice. Then we'll go over here to the head. We have a double jointed neck. It allows it to go forward like so. You can look around. Lots of dynamic poses. I really think a double jointed neck, especially with mecha figures like this, might be the way to go. Torso, we have a joint up here, so we get some pretty tight abdominal crunches. We have rotation, and then we have a joint at the bottom. This one is really stiff, but it does allow you to get some wildly dynamic poses. This thing, just as far as a desk toy goes, for its articulation, is really great. And so we put the stand in here. And if you can get that just right, that's probably how I'm going to have this guy displayed. Not exactly this pose, but doing something very dynamic on the stand, just because it does stand all right, but you got to mess with it and all that. But I think it's pretty good. But let's go ahead and jump into some comparisons. On the right here, we have the first figure they released, which is Diaclone Scale. Now, unfortunately, this figure does not have a cockpit, however, would be pretty cool if it was working in line with that. Though when you put them next to each other, they don't really feel like they go together, even though the plastic is pretty much the same quality of materials. Here it is with a slightly larger figure, the Armored Puppet. He still overscales against this as well. And something I'd hope would be more comparable, that is the 30-minute missions, which the name of this figure actually kind of riffs off of. But honestly, the 1/44 scale actually feels a little bit larger than this, unless you just consider this a drone that accompanied manned armored mecha. But while this is a cool figure, you might have a little bit of a challenge figuring out where it fits in your collection, since it's sort of its own thing when it comes to size and scale. Now, even though this may have a hard time finding a spot within your collection, it's still worth grabbing. I think it is easy enough to build, looks good enough, doesn't really need a lot of work unless you feel like you need to add some accent colors or some distressing or minor like panel lining. It's really good. And even without the stand, you can get lots of awesome dynamic poses. Now, what I would say about this, even though I love the design, I think the price point's good, and for the most part, I'm happy. As I mess around with it, all I can think is how I wish I had one that was a little bit bigger, something that maybe scaled with 144, was metal, or at least metal framed, and more detailed, and I would pay more for it because this design is so good. You can keep the exact joint structure, follow the same concepts, just give it a little bit of metal, a little bit more painted detail. I don't necessarily want an LED head gimmick, but that would be cool too. But this is really cool, especially for the price. I think this is an upgrade over their previous figure that I showed earlier. But anyway, let us know in the comments below if this is worthy of your collection. You can get yours at Shozy Store and GunDamit. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.